Hi guys, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I wish we were in school so we could have done our really cool Shamrock Shake party, but that's okay, it's all within spirit. So we're going to continue reading our story from yesterday, which is You Wouldn't Want to Be a World War II Pilot, Air Battles You Might Not Survive. So yesterday we talked about comparing authors' point of view. So the way you do that is by finding positive words and phrases and negative words and phrases from different authors and kind of finding the similarities and differences between them. So right now we're only focusing on this solo author here, and then later in the week we're going to see another author's point of view. So right now we're just working on finding the topic and the author's point of view. So you can either start a new sheet or continue on the paper that you had, and it should look like this. You can pause the video if you need a second, but you have the page number, the topic, and the author's point of view. All right, so that's what you're turning in to me, you know, with your picture that you send via Dojo or an email. And so let's get started. So we are going to start on page 22 and 23. So it's entitled Pearl Harbor. Get a good look at the pictures. Okay. On December 7th, 1941, Japanese forces launched a surprise attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. More than 350 Japanese fighters, bombers, and torpedo planes attacked in two waves. 5 midget submarines joined the attack. Americans who have not suffered a major attack on their home territory in living memory are shocked. The next day, the United States declares war on Japan. Germany and Italy respond by declaring war on the United States. Now the United States will join war in Europe as well as the war in the Pacific. Some American pilots in the RAF asked the U.S. Embassy to transfer them to U.S. forces. They will get their wishes, but not for another year. So that's kind of what this picture is saying. He's saying, one more year with the Brits, fellas. And then it says, handy hit. Don't forget to lower your wheels before you land. It doesn't look like this guy did in this picture. Okay. It says, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt gives one of the most famous speeches of the 20th century on the day after the attack. And then it says, American families hear their president describe the attack on the radio. The speech clearly signaled America's entrance into the war. So in this picture here, you got people shouting things like this guy saying, what's going on? Kaboom, zoom. We all know those are onomatopoeias, right? So we got move, move, rat-tat-tat. And it says a date which will live on and on. Okay, sorry, that was a little confusing. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and tell me what you think the author's the topic was, and then the author's point of view. Okay. All right, so now we're on page 24 and 25. Pacific fighters. Some of our friends become pilots in the U.S. Navy. Now they are fighting the Japanese in the Pacific. Navy pilots are based on flat-decked warships called aircraft carriers. The pilots have to take off from and land on a heaving deck that looks the size of a postage stamp from the air. If they miss their ship, they're swimming home. Just like the story we were reading for Moral Focus last week, Lost, how they missed their landing for fuel. So they ran out of gas, and then they ended up in the water and had to swim to the island. The most successful U.S. Navy fighter is the Grumman F-6F-5 Hellcat. The leading Japanese Navy fighter is the Mitsubishi 86M2. The Allies call it Zero. So this picture here shows short news films called newsreels keep you informed about the Pacific War. They are shown in movie theaters before the featured films. The fighters took off at precisely 800 hours. So the Grumman F6F5 Hellcat. We're just going to call it Hellcat from here on out. Engine, it says the engine is, it gives facts. So it says 2,000 horsepower, Pratt & Whitney. The wingspan is 42 feet. The top speed is 380 miles per hour. And the weapons are a variety of cannons, machine guns, rockets, bombs, and torpedoes. And the maximum altitude is 37,300 feet. As the Allies advance across the Pacific, Japan uses a terrifying method of attack, a desperate last resort, kamikaze. Kamikaze pilots deliberately crash their planes onto the Allied warships. And then it says, come on, give them more, act. Only if you act politely. And then it says blam here. So this is about the Mitsubishi A6M20. So the engine is 950 horsepower. The wingspan is 39 feet. The top speed is 331 miles per hour. And the weapons are 2 20-millimeter cannons, 2 machine guns, and 2 bombs. The maximum altitude is 33,790 feet. So it says a handy hint. Watch your fuel gauge. You don't want to run out of fuel overseas. Just like we just talked about, right? So you can see these pictures. So go ahead and pause the video and write what you think the topic was and the author's point of view on these particular pages. And just a hint, the topic might be this title right here. Just saying. All right, so this next page, 26 and 27, the last one, sorry, I didn't read, was 24 and 25. So you can write that as your page number. It's called Under U.S. Command. In September 1942, the RAF's Eagle squadrons, manned by U.S. pilots, are transferred to the U.S. Air Army Forces, or the USAAF. They become the 4th Fighter Group in the 8th Air Force. All pilots hand back their blue RAF uniforms and get olive USAF uniforms. They continue to fly Spitfires until American Thunderbolt fighters arrive. So, if you see here, it's just this plane here. It looks like this guy saying, I wouldn't like to be stuck in this Thunderbolt. It's a plane to sea. She's quite a fighter. You get it? Plane, like plane to sea, but it's a plane. Okay. So, flying in a steel jug. The P-47D Thunderbolt is known by its pilots as the Jug. Jug is short for juggernaut, meaning an unstoppable force because the Thunderbolt is such a big, heavy, and powerful aircraft. It is the biggest single-seat fighter of its day. And it says, it's a sad day when your Spitfire is taken back by the RFA because you no longer get to fly in one. And this picture says, so long, friend, sniff, sniff. Handy hint, don't fire too soon. Wait until your target is within the range of your guns. So here, it kind of gives the same kind of on the other page how it gave the, like, little plain facts. So it says the engine is 2,535 horsepower. The wingspan is 40 feet and 9 inches. The top speed is 433 miles per hour. Weapons is 8 Browning machine guns and 2 bombs or 10 rockets. Maximum altitude is 42,000 feet. So it seems like this is the fastest, highest flying plane that carries the most machinery. It says, on your last day under British command, you receive a medal to mark your service in one of the RAF's famous Eagle squadrons. So that's this page. I'll give you a closer look at the pictures. So go ahead and pause the video and write what you think the topic is and what you think the author's point of view is. And we're moving on to the last page, which is Peace at Last. It's like this. Okay. Germany surrenders on May 7th, 1945. The war in Europe is over. Though the war in the Pacific will continue for another 3 months, You are on leave in London when you hear the good news. You survived, and soon it will be time to go home to the USA. You join thousands upon thousands of people in front of Buckingham Palace, the official home of the British royal family. When the royal family and Prime Minister Winston Churchill come out onto the palace's balcony, the crowd goes wild. Soldiers, sailors, and airmen throw their hats into the air. One woman, a Wren member of the Women's World Naval Service named Kitty Cardell, loses her hat. When she goes on duty without it the next day, her superiors charge her with being inappropriately dressed. And here she's like, I think this might be her. She's saying, hooray! Hats off to the Allies. You're delighted to be home, but you'll never forget the pilots who didn't make it back with you. One of the first things you do is have a meal of steak and french fries, and as much as you can eat. You're lucky because food is still scarce in Britain. And this guy here is saying, I sure won't miss the Brussels sprouts. And says, I'd like to be a pilot one day. At the airfield where you learn to find your biplane, a youngster admires your medals. So here, go ahead and do the same thing. Topic, author's point of view. All right, and that concludes our reading for today. Okay?